Hello music lovers, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. I thought we'd do something a little bit different this week. Moving forward, I'm going to be making sort of more content like this, little discussions about music and singing and little, I suppose, debates, if you like, about various topics, all music related. And once we've reached episode 100 of What Makes This Song Special, I'm going to start a new show as well, a new weekly show. I still might do the odd episode of What Makes This Song Special, but the focus will be on the new format, which I will reveal in the next few weeks as we approach the end of the 100 episodes. So as always, if you haven't already, please leave a wee like and consider hitting that subscribe button if you like to talk or listen to music related content. That would mean a lot, thank you. So today, as the title, the thumbnail suggested, the topic is what makes a great singer. As any of you have watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know that I have analysed almost 100 different vocalists now on the channel. Seems kind of bizarre when I say that because it doesn't seem like 100, but yeah, it must be at least 90 anyway, as part of the What Makes This Song Special series. And what I've discussed many times is that singing or somebody's voice, someone's voice and your response to that voice is very much subjective, in that I might love a voice that you hate and vice versa. And that goes without saying when talking about any art form. People like certain things that other people hate, and that is just life. And that's what makes, I think, art and music and all art related subjects so interesting, because there isn't really a right and wrong. However, there are things that make that subjectivity more skewed towards popular outcome. For instance, lots of people love Beyonce's voice, as an example. Lots of people love Freddie Mercury's voice. As in, I would guess that more people like those voices than dislike them. That would be my guess, I would say. There's no statistics on that, I've just completely guessed at that. But I would reckon that most people who hear Beyonce's voice would say that's a great voice. And same with Freddie Mercury and various other singers, okay? So why? Why would more people like them than dislike them? Well, first let's look at the objectivity as opposed to subjectivity for a moment. There's really only one thing that is pretty set in stone objectively for 99% of listeners to appreciate a voice, and that, of course, is pitch. A voice that strays from the intended pitch, as in hits a little bit flat or sharp, often, is the one element that will make musicians and non-musicians alike cringe, and they'll hit the stage trapdoor button or throw tomatoes or, whatever it may be, but they will not like it. They will immediately make a judgment call on that voice, and a negative one at that. And that's the first thing that I would say any consumer of a vocal will be put off by. I don't think that's really up for debate. I think most people would say if somebody's pitchy, immediately that person can't sing. That's what people would say, that they can't sing. Now, pitchiness can be from many things. We can go into that in another episode. Sometimes a perfectly good singer will just be pitchy on a day. Nerves, an underlying cold, a sore throat, a tired voice, those types of things. But somebody who's consistently pitchy, I would say that's objectively somebody who isn't the greatest of singers, or definitely would not be perceived to be by the public. After that, it's pretty subjective. The next aspect of singing that people probably are either turned on by or put off by is tone. Tone is essentially the sound of a voice. Tone is the accent, the spectrum that it takes up in a mix. It's whiny or woody, it's nasal, it's boomy, etc. The way somebody sounds. And that's why you have like Marmite singers, if you like, the people who say Marmite singers. People who have voices that are further away from normal on the tone spectrum, if you like. People like Axl Rose, Tom Waits, Macy Gray, Janis Joplin, Kate Bush, Louis Armstrong. I could keep going, but those slightly unusual voices, if you like, those singers are loved by some people and hated by other people. And that's because they have something that's a little bit further from normal. or the average voice, if you like. It's something different that they offer, and that either resonates with some people, resonates with their ears and their hearts, and it might disgust others. Other people are just completely put off by it. The tone's just not to their liking. And I'm sure we've all got a few artists that we can name very quickly that fall into that category. Usually if they've had conversations with people, they can instantly mention two or three singers that they just instantly dislike. So for some reason in those voices, something is odd or unusual in that tone that then, puts you off, where it would maybe draw other people in. And that is, of course, subjectivity in a nutshell. But the tone is the second thing that people notice. As I said, the first thing that people tend to notice would be pitch. Second thing would be tone. Those two kind of take top spots. And then we have things like range. I often find myself saying to my vocal students that range isn't everything. A lot of people come in here and they're obsessed with range. They want to sing everything in the original key because they feel like it's cheating if they don't sing something in the original key, which is silly because, your instrument is your instrument. And of course, it's nice to strive for more range. And that's something that I'm very proud to say that I've helped hundreds of singers with over the last 20 years that I've been teaching singing. But there is a limit to how much range said person is going to have, and we can go into other debates about mix and head voice and what is range. Is it just your chest range? Is it another debate for another day? But range isn't everything. I say that to them, and I always say singing higher doesn't always mean better. However, there does seem to be something in a high note and high notes that enjoyers of music are just drawn to when they listen to vocalists. Something that makes the hairs on your neck stand on end when somebody hits an impressively high note, especially if it's powerful, which is of course another aspect of voice that people can be drawn to. A powerful voice, I think of Mercury. I think of, I want to break free. I want to break free. It's that strong, chesty, belty sound that people go, oh, I love that. It's rocky. It's immediately, it just sort of hits you. But then on the complete flip side, a lot of people like those kind of soft, airy voices. Somebody singing a ballad like, I don't know, when the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case. And they've got that breathiness and it sort of draws you in. The fragility of it draws you in as well. So you've got those dynamics, of course. That's the word for it, dynamics, like in terms of those louds and softs. Do they drive you? Do they draw you in? Do they draw you in when somebody's like all powerful or all soft? Or is it usually when somebody's really powerful and then they pull it away and then they give you a little bit more and then they pull it away? I tend to find that's a really great way of making people quite emotional when you sing, and I encourage singers to do that. But some people just like the soft voice, some people just like the loud voice, some people like a little bit of both. Is it because those techniques are difficult? Is it because singing high and powerful is difficult that it draws you in, or is it because those frequencies evoke a response that is more emotive? Is it a more emotive response? I think it's probably a bit of both. I mean, doing something that's difficult always gets a response from people. If it wasn't difficult and everyone can do it, then I suppose it wouldn't be impressive or sought after because everybody could do it. Just like something like driving a car. Most people can drive a car, so it's not that impressive to see somebody driving a car. But it might be impressive if you're a kid and you're watching your parents drive the car and you're like, I would love to be able to do that. So if everybody can do something, it takes away a little bit of that allure, shall we say. What else have we got? Husky voices, those gravelly vocalists that sometimes people hate because it's just not a pure sound, yet some people love it, and it seems to be a very in sound at the moment. A lot of singers like that at the moment, getting a lot of plaudits on singing shows and record contracts and things like that. It's very popular. Again, is it because it's unusual? Is it because it's different? Because it sounds difficult to do without getting a sore throat? And it often is, because a lot of the time it's a genetic thing that make people sing like that. Again, I'm not going to dive too much into like vocal, big terminologies and biology and physics on this episode. This is very much just a little quick chat about technique and what makes a singer great. We can talk in more depth in other episodes if you're into it. Then you have the elite level singers who can sing and make it sound effortless, because they've managed to find the elusive mix, the mixed voice that blends the chest and the head together, the thyroid and the cricothyroid for you vocal geeks out there. The ones who can passaggio or bridge without any breaks, the ones that can and wind down from head voice through mix into chest voice. And they can do that in song. And those techniques appeal to true music and singing lovers because they understand how difficult it is to sort of train that stuff. But on a subconscious level, I think they also appeal to sort of Joe Public because something in there gives a sense of effortlessness and confidence that the listener feels when somebody hits a note. You might not be able to say, oh, that's a mixed voice note, that's a whatever, but something in it just sounds impressively effortless, and that's a really great thing for anybody on a subconscious level. I think people, they really hear these things. Singers, even like Adele, she jumps between chest and head voice a lot, and she doesn't just jump from, I think I spoke about Mick Hucknall in a previous episode as well on this regard, like they don't always just use their head voice for the notes they can't get to in their chest voice. They'll use head voice as a conscious choice for certain notes to make. So she'll do things where Adele will be like like sort of higher, and then she'll come down and she use her head voice on low notes. So most people don't tend to do that. They tend to use head voice when it's high, chest voice when it's slightly lower. She jumps around all over the place and it makes you emotional. And even if you don't know that she's doing it, or you haven't even considered as a non-singer what chest and head voice even are, something in that draws you in because it sounds more emotive, because it's just got something in it, that's different. And, personally, I love so many different voices. Some of them have all of the attributes that I've spoken about, and some of them have very few. A lot of it comes down to how someone connects with a lyric and the music. So that's, how do they draw you in? Like Bob Dylan is a great example of this. Far from a gifted vocalist. I feel bad saying that, but Bob Dylan can make you cry when you hear him sing because there's beautiful lyrics that only he, the writer, can really connect with above anyone else. Especially when it comes to songs that are written about like a personal journey or personal loss or experience, when it's a story a songwriter's telling about something that's happened in their life. It's very hard for somebody, and I cover hundreds of songs here on the channel, but very hard to cover a song and do a better job of emotionally connecting with a lyric than the person who wrote the lyric, unless you can really find some parallel in your life with that lyric, or you're really good at acting. It's very hard to get the same emotion out of that lyric as the person who wrote the song. It's just very difficult, and they can just connect with that lyric. But it's an art form. It's, again, a great technique for a singer to be able to pull out. Can you connect with a song that means absolutely nothing to you, but can you still connect with it on a musical and lyrical sense? That, again, is what makes a great singer, I think. And yeah, for what it's worth, I love Freddie Mercury's voice. I love John Bon Jovi's voice, Elton John's voice, George Michael, Eva Cassidy, Celine Dion, Ozzy Osbourne, Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, Luciano Pavarotti, Steven Tyler, Phil Collins, Sting, Joni Mitchell. Did I say Joni Mitchell? Axl Rose. I could go on forever. They all have different things that make their voices likeable to me. But they might not be likeable to everybody else. I speak to some people and they say, oh, I hate John Bon Jovi's voice. I think, how can you hate John Bon Jovi's voice? John Bon Jovi's voice was amazing. Like, I say was amazing because I know he's had some vocal issues over the last few years, but I'm talking like prime John. great voice. You know, people say, oh, I don't like Elton John's voice. In my eyes, in my ears, I can't hear that. I'm like, he's so good. Why could you not like that? But of course it's subjective, it's an art form. And yeah, I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Really, I want to hear your thoughts. Maybe we can do a part 2, a wee follow-up to this topic based on any questions or suggestions that I receive. What do you think makes a great singer? Who are your favourite singers and why? Leave some comments and some feedback in the section below, and we can discuss this in more detail. What makes a great singer? You tell me, who are your favourite singers? What makes them amazing? What makes you hate some voices? You know, be brutal. I doubt if you said something about Axl Rose's voice that he's going to read it on my channel, on the comments on this video. If he does, I'll be over the moon, even if it's slagging him off. So yeah, leave some feedback, leave some comments, and we can dive into any questions you've got on a future part 2. But yeah, for now, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another episode of What Makes This Song Special, and probably a couple of cover versions, as always. Yeah, thank you. See you soon.